The sun hung low in the sky, casting an orange glow over the alien landscape. Name, a human diplomat, stood on the edge of a strange alien village, taking in the sight of its curious architecture. The buildings were unlike anything on Earth, towering and twisting with soft blue light that seemed to pulse from within the walls. Plants in shades of purple and green grew wild, swaying gently in the breeze, while creatures of various shapes and sizes moved between the streets, their eyes watchful and intelligent. Name had come to this peaceful world to build a bridge between humans and aliens. The galaxy was full of different species, but none had ever truly understood humans. His mission was clear: learn, adapt, and help create understanding. He knew the journey wouldn't be easy, but he was determined. As he walked deeper into the village, he couldn't help but notice the curious looks the aliens gave him. It wasn't fear or suspicion. It was more like fascination, as though they had never seen anything quite like him before. The thought crossed his mind. Maybe humans were still a novelty here. He had walked for hours, listening to the hum of the wind through the alien plants, when something unexpected happened. As he passed by a small market square, a little alien girl caught his eye. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8, with soft purple skin and large, bright eyes that seemed to reflect the stars themselves. She was playing with a toy, something that looked like a miniature ship, when she suddenly froze, her eyes locking onto him. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. The girl's mouth parted slightly, her toy forgotten as she looked at him in shock. Then, without warning, she shouted, "Mom, look! My dad is here!" Name blinked in surprise, unsure of how to react. He had never been called Dad before, certainly not by an alien child. The marketplace seemed to pause, the chatter of the crowd dying down as the people around him turned their heads, some raising their brows, others whispering to each other. The little girl's outburst seemed to send a ripple through the air, as if her words had unlocked something in the hearts of those nearby. A strange feeling washed over him, a mix of confusion and a deep sense of curiosity. He wasn't sure what to do. This world was so different, and the last thing he expected was to be greeted like this. Was it a mistake? Was she just playing? Or was there something deeper to this strange encounter? Before he could ponder the situation further, a woman stepped forward from the crowd. She was tall and elegant, with silver blue skin that shimmered under the sunlight. Her eyes were calm but intense, and she carried herself with the air of someone who had seen much in her lifetime. She looked directly at him, her gaze steady. "Excuse me," she said in a smooth, melodic voice that was somehow both foreign and familiar. "Is there something you wish to tell us?" Name stood still, unsure how to respond. His translator device had already kicked in, allowing him to understand the alien language, but the situation was far more complex than he had anticipated. The woman's expression was unreadable, and the eyes of the crowd were now fixed on him with a silent intensity. I'm not sure what's going on," he stammered, still recovering from the shock of being called Dad. "I'm just here, for diplomatic purposes, to learn about your culture and establish peaceful relations." The woman didn't seem to react to his words at first. Instead, she looked down at the little girl, who was still staring at him with wide, expectant eyes. The girl's excitement was palpable, and it was clear that she believed something important was happening. "Why did you say that?" Name asked gently, bending slightly to get on the girl's level. He didn't want to upset her, but he couldn't ignore how unusual the situation had become. The girl's eyes sparkled. "You're the one," she said matter-of-factly. "The one from the stories. You're the one who's going to save us." The woman, her mother it seemed, finally spoke. "This is unexpected," she said, her voice a little softer now. "I'm sorry for my daughter's outburst. She has been told stories of a human who will come to help us, but we never thought it would happen like this." Name was taken aback. "A human? Help you with what? What do you mean?" The woman took a slow breath, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "There is a prophecy. A human will come to our world and save us from a great darkness, but it has never been clear who that human is. We've waited for years, hoping that one day the right one would appear." Name felt a strange tension build in his chest. The idea that he could be part of some prophecy was absurd. He was just a scientist, a diplomat. He had no powers, no extraordinary abilities. How could he possibly be the one they were waiting for? "I'm afraid you have the wrong person," he said slowly, shaking his head. "I'm not a hero. I'm here to learn, to help if I can, but I don't think I'm the one you're looking for." But the girl's hopeful expression didn't change. She stepped closer to him, grabbing his hand with her small fingers. "You are. You're the one. I know it." The woman studied him for a long moment before sighing. Perhaps there is more to this than we understand." As the crowd began to disperse, murmuring amongst themselves, Name was left standing with the little girl and her mother. The weight of their words hung in the air, and for the first time, Name wondered if his mission would be about much more than just diplomacy. Could he really be the one who would save this world? He wasn't sure. But as he looked at the girl's innocent, hopeful eyes, he felt an unfamiliar sense of responsibility take root inside him. Name stood still, his mind racing, trying to make sense of everything. The little alien girl, still, holding his hand with a gentle grip, looked up at him with bright, hopeful eyes. Her innocent belief in him felt almost overwhelming. How could this be? How could he, a simple human diplomat, be the one they had been waiting for? Before he could come up with an answer, the woman who had spoken earlier, her mother he assumed, stepped forward. She was tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered like polished silver under the bright sunlight. Her features were striking, with sharp yet soft lines that gave her a timeless, almost otherworldly appearance. Her eyes were a deep shade of violet, holding a depth of wisdom that seemed far beyond what one might expect from her age. The crowd, which had begun to disperse, paused as the woman approached. Their whispers grew quiet, as if they too recognized the significance of this moment. The little girl's mother, however, seemed to carry herself with calm assurance. She didn't rush forward. Instead, she moved slowly, her gaze locked on Name the entire time. When she was within a few steps, she stopped and regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and uncertainty. "Forgive my daughter's outburst," she said in a soft, melodic voice. Her accent was smooth and her words were clear, though the language was foreign to him. But with the help of his translator device, the message was perfectly clear. "No need to apologize," Name replied, still unsure of what to make of the situation. "She's just excited, I suppose." The woman nodded, but her expression didn't change. There was something serious in her eyes. "I understand. But this is something we never expected. She has been told stories of a human who would come to us, and for her the story was always a fairy tale, a distant hope. Now she believes you are the one." "Wait a minute," Name interjected, confused. "You said there's a prophecy. What exactly does it say? What am I supposed to do?" The woman looked at him for a moment as though deciding how much to explain. Then she took a deep breath and began. "Our planet is in great danger. For generations we have lived under the threat of a force far more powerful than anything we've ever known. It comes from the stars, and it seeks to destroy everything we hold dear. There is a prophecy, a belief, that a human will appear and help us overcome this darkness. The prophecy does not tell us who, nor does it tell us how. But it says that, when the time is right, the one who is meant to help us will come. And for reasons we cannot explain, my daughter believes you are that human." Name shook his head, still not fully understanding. "I'm just a diplomat," he said again, his voice full of doubt. "I don't have any special powers. I'm here to learn, to create peace. I don't know how I could possibly—" "Peace?" The woman interrupted softly, almost with a smile, though her eyes remained serious. "Peace is important, yes. But what we face is beyond anything you've encountered. It is not just a battle for survival, but a fight for our way of life. The prophecy has spoken of a human, and now you stand before us. Perhaps you are not here by chance." The words hung in the air like an unsolved mystery. Name felt a sinking sensation in his stomach. He didn't know how he could be the answer to their problems. His mind raced back to his training as a diplomat. He was supposed to be a bridge between humans and aliens, not some mythical savior. "I'm not what you think I am," he said, his voice soft but firm. "I don't know how I'm supposed to help you, but I can't deny that something strange is happening." The woman stepped closer, her gaze softening though still intense. "You may not know it yet, but perhaps you are more important to us than you think. We've been waiting for you, or someone like you. I don't understand it myself, but there is something about you that feels right." Her words were not comforting. Instead, they left him feeling like he was in over his head. He looked down at the little girl, still holding onto his hand with all the trust in the world. Her wide eyes were full of hope, and it was clear that she believed without question that he was the one meant to help them. "I didn't come here to save anyone," he murmured, more to himself than to the woman. "I'm just trying to do what's right." The alien mother's expression softened, though there was still a trace of sadness in her eyes. "And that is why you might be the one we've been waiting for," she said, her voice quiet. "Sometimes the ones who are meant to lead are those who are not seeking power at all." The little girl, still holding his hand, looked up at him again. "You are my dad, right?" she asked, her voice full of wonder. "You'll save us, won't you?" The question hit him like a wave. He didn't know how to respond. How could he explain to this innocent child that he wasn't her father? How could he tell her that he wasn't even sure how to help her people? Before he could find the words, the alien woman spoke again. "Perhaps you are not ready yet to understand, but we believe in you. Name, all of us. You have come to us at the right time. You may not see it yet, but your presence here has sparked something we can't ignore." For a long moment, Name said nothing. The weight of their expectations was heavy on his shoulders. He had never signed up for anything like this. But as he looked at the little girl's hopeful face, a small part of him began to wonder, was there more to his mission than he had been told? The answer, it seemed, would unfold in time. The day grew darker as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the alien village. Name stood in the center of the square, the little girl still holding his hand, her fingers warm and trusting. Her mother, too, remained close by, her serious gaze never leaving him. It was clear now that this was more than just a strange encounter. It was something deeper, something important, and something he wasn't prepared for. As the crowd slowly moved away, returning to their homes and tasks, Name was left alone with the alien mother and her daughter. The air was thick with questions, yet no one seemed to have the answers. The woman stood beside him, her posture calm but tense, as if she, too, was struggling to understand the strange turn of events. "Come," the woman said after a long pause, her voice gentle but firm. "There is much we need to discuss." With no better option, Name nodded, following her as she led him through the narrow streets. The buildings here were made from a material that shimmered in the light, reflecting colors he couldn't quite name. The plants in the village seemed to hum with life, their colors changing as they walked past, as though responding to their presence. It was a peaceful, beautiful place, yet something about it felt fragile, like the calm before a storm. They arrived at a small dwelling, tucked between two larger structures. The alien woman gestured for him to enter, and Name stepped inside, careful not to disturb anything. The room was modest, decorated with simple but elegant furniture. Soft lights from the walls illuminated the space, casting a soothing glow. At the center of the room was a large round table covered with what appeared to be ancient scrolls and maps. "Please sit," the woman said, motioning to one of the chairs at the table. She then turned to her daughter, who had been quiet for the past few minutes. "Stay here, child. This conversation is for adults." The little girl nodded but didn't let go of Name's hand, as though she needed his presence for reassurance. The alien woman smiled softly and patted the girl's head before turning to Name. "Now let us speak of the prophecy," she began. The words echoed in his mind. Prophecy. He had thought it was just a story, an ancient myth passed down through generations. But now, standing in the strange alien home, he couldn't ignore the seriousness in the woman's voice. The alien woman sat across from him, her posture relaxed yet full of quiet authority. She seemed to gather her thoughts for a moment before continuing. "It is an old tale," she began, "a tale that has been told for as long as we can remember. It speaks of a time when our planet would face its greatest threat, a force so powerful that no one could stand against it alone. The story says that when the time came, a human would appear, someone not from our world, who would bring hope to our people." Name shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "And you think I'm this person, the one from the prophecy?" The woman's eyes softened. "I cannot say for certain, but my daughter believes it, and I feel something too. There is something about you that feels familiar. You may not believe it now, but this is no coincidence." He let out a breath, still unsure of what to make of all this. A part of him wanted to dismiss it as nonsense, as a misunderstanding. But another part of him deep inside couldn't ignore the fact that there was something in his connection with the little girl, something that felt too real to ignore. The woman leaned forward, her eyes locking onto his. "The darkness that is coming is not just an enemy. It is a force that seeks to destroy everything we have. Our people have been preparing for it for generations. But we are no match for it alone. The prophecy speaks of a human who will come, who will have the power to change the course of our fate." The words hung heavy in the room. Name swallowed hard, his mind racing. He had come to this world as a simple diplomat, someone tasked with fostering peaceful relations. Now it seemed his role was changing. He wasn't just here to negotiate. He was being asked to save an entire world. But how? He had no weapons, no special abilities. He was just a human, ordinary in every sense. "But I'm not a warrior," he said, his voice shaky. I'm not the hero you think. I am." The alien woman gave him a sad smile. "No one ever said you had to be. The prophecy does not speak of a hero. It speaks of someone who will bring us hope, someone who can unite our people, a leader. And that is something you already are." Name stared at her, disbelief still written across his face. "A leader?" he repeated, his mind racing. "I'm not a leader. I've never been a leader." The woman's smile deepened. "Leadership is not always about strength or power, Name. Sometimes it is about making the right choice when everything seems impossible. The prophecy is not just about defeating the darkness. It is about guiding us to a future where we survive." The words hit him like a wave. He had always thought of leadership as something reserved for others, the strong, the powerful, the confident. He had never seen himself in that light. But as he looked at the woman's calm face and at the little girl still holding his hand, something inside him began to shift. "I don't know if I can do this," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You don't have to do it alone," she replied softly. "You have us, and we will help you. But we need to believe in you." There was a long silence between them, as Name processed her words. The weight of the prophecy, of the responsibility it placed on him, was immense. But as he looked at the alien woman and her daughter, he knew he couldn't walk away. "Not now." "I'll do what I can," he said, finally meeting her gaze. "I don't know if I'm the one you're waiting for, but I'll try. For you. For your people." The alien woman nodded, her expression one of quiet gratitude. "That is all we ask." As the conversation continued, Name felt a strange sense of determination begin to grow within him. The road ahead would be difficult, and he still didn't understand what role he was meant to play. But one thing was clear. He wasn't just a diplomat anymore. He was something else, a link between two worlds, a symbol of hope in the face of a coming storm. And somehow, despite his doubts, he knew he couldn't turn back. The days following Name's meeting with the alien woman and her daughter passed in a blur. He couldn't stop thinking about what they had said. The prophecy, the darkness, the expectation that he might somehow be the one to save them. Despite his doubts, a small part of him felt a pull, a sense of responsibility he couldn't ignore. But he wasn't ready for what came next. The alien woman, whose name was Lyra, had invited him to a secluded area near the village, an open space surrounded by tall, swaying trees and strange, bioluminescent plants. It was a place of serenity, but also a place of trial. Lyra had made it clear that if Name was truly the one from the prophecy, he needed to prove it. It wasn't just enough to say he would help. They needed to see his strength, his wisdom, his ability to lead. The little girl, whose name was Lyra, clung to his side as they walked toward the clearing. She was quieter than usual, her small hand gripping his as though she couldn't let go. Her eyes full of expectation never left him. "I don't know what's going to happen," Name said, trying to reassure the girl. "But I'll do my best." Lyra looked up at him with wide eyes, her expression serious for someone so young. "I know you can do it, Dad," she said, her voice soft but full of belief. "I've seen it in my dreams." Her words made his heart ache. He wasn't her father, but in that moment he couldn't deny the bond he was beginning to feel with her. She believed in him with all her heart, and it was hard not to let that belief take root in his own heart. As they reached the clearing, Lyra stepped forward, motioning for Name to stand in the center of the space. The ground was soft, covered in glowing moss that lit up with each step they took. The air was thick with the scent of alien flowers, their colors shifting in response to the presence of the three of them. "This is where it will happen," Lyra said, her tone steady. "You will face a series of challenges. Each one will test you not only physically but mentally and emotionally. If you are the one we have been waiting for, you will pass these trials. If not..." Her voice trailed off, but Name understood the implication. If he failed, there would be no turning back. The darkness that Lyra had spoken of would come, and no one would be able to stop it. "Are you ready?" Lyra asked, her gaze unwavering. Name took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "I'm ready," he said, though his heart raced in his chest. Lyra nodded and stepped aside, signaling for the first trial to begin. The first challenge was one of strength. A large metallic creature, the size of a small tank, emerged from the trees. Its body was covered in shimmering armor, and its eyes glowed a bright yellow. It moved with surprising speed, its movements precise and deliberate. Name, instinctively, stepped back, but Lyra's voice stopped him. "Do not fear it," she said calmly. "This creature is here to test your courage and your ability to face the unknown." The creature charged, and without thinking, Name ran toward it. He didn't know what else to do. The creature's sharp claws reached out, but Name was quicker. He dodged and slid under its attack, pushing himself harder with each move. The metallic beast roared, but Name could feel his resolve growing stronger. He had faced danger before, but this was different. He wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting for something bigger than himself. Finally, with a well-placed strike, Name knocked the creature to the ground. It stopped moving, its body crumpling into the moss-covered earth. Lyra stepped forward, her face unreadable. "You did well," she said simply. "But this was only the first test. The second will be more difficult." The second trial was one of intellect. Lyra led him to a massive stone structure in the middle of the clearing, a kind of puzzle. Symbols, intricate and unfamiliar, covered the stone surface, and in the center of it was a glowing orb. "To pass this test, you must solve the puzzle," Lyra explained. "The answers lie within you, not in the puzzle itself." Name approached the stone structure, feeling the pressure mounting. He studied the symbols, trying to make sense of them. His mind raced, but he couldn't find the pattern. It wasn't like anything he had seen before, and frustration began to creep in. But then something shifted. The key wasn't in the symbols themselves, but in the way the symbols interacted. He closed his eyes, remembering his training as a diplomat. He had learned to think outside the box, to look for connections where others saw none. Slowly, the symbols began to make sense. With a series of calculated moves, he pressed the correct symbols one after another. The stone structure rumbled, and the orb in the center of the puzzle began to glow brighter. releasing a burst of light. "You have solved it," Lyra said, her voice calm but filled with approval. "But the final test will be the most important." The final trial was the hardest. Lyra asked him to face his greatest fear. In the middle of the clearing, a deep fog began to rise, shrouding everything in an eerie silence. Name felt his heart race as he stepped forward into the mist. He didn't know what to expect, but he knew it wouldn't be easy. As the fog parted, he saw a vision, an image of his past. He was standing in a burning building, watching helplessly as people he cared about were trapped inside. The scene was real, and for a moment it felt like he was back in that place, feeling the helplessness, the guilt. But then a voice, Lyra's voice, cut through the darkness. "You are not that person anymore," she said. "You are stronger than this." With her words, the vision faded, and Name felt a weight lift from his chest. He had faced his fear and overcome it. He wasn't that helpless person anymore. He had the strength to move forward. Lyra stepped forward, her expression softening. "You have passed the trials. You have shown us your courage, your intellect, and your heart. You are the one." Name stood still, his heart racing. He hadn't expected to make it this far, but now he knew he had a purpose. And no matter how uncertain the future was, he would face it with everything he had. The trials were over, but for Name, the journey had only just begun. He stood in the clearing, the weight of the tests still heavy on his shoulders. His heart pounded with both the adrenaline of his victories and the confusion of his uncertain future. Lyra had said he was the one meant to save them. But how could he be? He was just a human, a diplomat with no special powers or a knowledge of their world. As the fog from the trials began to clear, Lyra approached him, her eyes studying him carefully. "You've passed the tests," she said, her voice steady. "But now comes the hardest part. The future is not as simple as the past. The darkness that threatens us is near, and we must prepare." Name nodded, though doubt still lingered in his chest. He had faced the trials and come through them, but could he really help these people? Could he lead them against an unknown force? "We need to understand the danger we face," Lyra continued. "The prophecy did not speak of the details, only that a human would come. But we have seen glimpses of the future, and the signs are clear." "Signs?" Name asked, his curiosity piqued. "What do you mean? What exactly are we up against?" Lyra led him toward the edge of the clearing, where a massive structure stood, an ancient tower made of the same shimmering material that seemed to pulse with energy. It was a place of power, and the air around it seemed to hum with ancient knowledge. "This is the Oracle," Lyra explained. "It has been here for as long as we can remember. It holds the wisdom of our people, the knowledge of the stars, and the future of our world. We've used it to guide us, but now it will show you." Name followed her, feeling both awe and anxiety building within him. The Oracle was a mystery, something beyond his understanding. He had come to this planet to learn about its people, to help them establish peace. But now he was being asked to look into the future itself. As they entered the tower, the walls shimmered with strange symbols, and the air grew cooler. At the center of the room stood a large, glowing sphere, hovering just above the ground. Lyra motioned for him to approach. "This is the Oracle's gift," she said softly. "It will show you the future. But be warned, the future is not always clear. What you see may not be what you expect." Name stepped forward, his breath catching in his throat. He had always believed that the future was something to be shaped by choices, that nothing was set in stone. But as he gazed into the Oracle, he felt a pull, a magnetic force drawing him closer. The sphere flickered, and suddenly, the room around him seemed to vanish. The air was filled with flashes of light, and he saw images, fragments of the future. He saw a world on the brink of destruction, fires burning in the sky, the earth shaking as if it were alive with fury. He saw shadows moving, dark creatures that seemed to shift and change with each passing moment. And then, in the midst of the chaos, he saw himself, standing tall, a leader among many, guiding them through the darkness. His hand reached out, and the people followed him, drawn by his strength, his resolve. But there was a cost. The path was not easy, and those who followed him paid a heavy price. The vision shifted, and he saw Lyra, her small face filled with hope, but also fear. She looked up at him with eyes that seemed to plead for something, for safety, for protection. And then, just as quickly as the vision had come, it vanished, leaving only silence. Name staggered back, his heart racing. The images had been so vivid, so real. He had seen the future, a future that was uncertain, filled with danger and loss. Yet there was hope. Somehow, against all odds, there was a chance to save this world, to lead them out of the darkness. Lyra's voice broke through his thoughts. You have seen what is to come. The darkness is real. It will come for us all. But you are not alone. We will fight alongside you. Together, we can defeat it. Name took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. The vision had shaken him, but it had also given him a glimpse of what he needed to do. He wasn't just here to help the aliens as a diplomat anymore. He was here to lead them. He was here to fight for their future, for their survival. I saw what could happen, he said, his voice thick with emotion. But there was also hope. There's a chance to stop it. Lyra nodded. The future is never set in stone. But you are the key. You must lead us. You must bring us together. Unite our people and fight back against the darkness. We cannot do it alone. Name stood tall, his determination growing. He didn't know how he would do it, but he knew he had no choice. The future depended on him, and he couldn't back down now. He had to lead, not just for the aliens, but for the little girl who believed in him, for the people who depended on him. I'll do it, he said, his voice steady. I'll lead you. I'll fight for you, for all of you. Lyra's eyes softened and a faint smile touched her lips. We will fight together then. Name looked at her, then at Lyra, who had been watching him quietly from the doorway. Her eyes were filled with trust, and in that moment, he knew that he couldn't let her down. He couldn't let anyone down. The darkness was coming, but together, they would face it. Together they would find a way to win. The days following his vision in the Oracle's chamber were tense. Name felt the way, outside of his new role bearing down on him, but despite the uncertainty, there was no turning back. The alien world he had come to understand was on the brink of a great and terrible conflict, one that would test everything he believed in. And now, as strange as it seemed, he was the one they were all looking to for leadership. Lyra had prepared him for what was to come, but no amount of training could truly prepare someone for the weight of such responsibility. The darkness, the enemy that had been growing in the shadows, was now closer than ever. The signs were unmistakable. There was no more time to waste. The final confrontation was upon them. The village had been busy preparing for war. The aliens had fortified their homes, gathered their resources, and organized their people into defensive units. The world's once peaceful atmosphere had turned to one of grim determination. Everyone had a part to play, and it was clear that no one would be left behind. The battle was coming, and they needed every hand they could get. Medao stood at the center of the village, his mind racing. He had no experience in battle, no training as a soldier. His hands shook slightly as he gripped the weapon Lyra had given him, a strange alien blade that felt foreign in his grasp. He had never considered himself a fighter. Yet, in that moment, the choice was clear. He wasn't just going to stand by. He was going to fight for the future of these people, for the future of this world. Lyra, the little girl, stood beside him, her eyes wide with anticipation. She looked up at him with unwavering belief, as though he were already the hero of her story. It was hard for Name to meet her gaze, knowing he wasn't the hero she thought him to be. He was just a man, a human. thrown into a world far different from his own. But in that moment, seeing the hope in her eyes, something inside him shifted. Maybe he wasn't meant to be the hero in the traditional sense. Maybe his strength didn't come from his ability to fight, but from his will to protect, to lead, to stand up when everything seemed impossible. "We can do this," he said, trying to reassure Lyra, though his own voice felt unsteady. Lyra smiled up at him, squeezing his hand. "I know we can, Dad." Before he could respond, Lyra arrived, her expression serious. She was dressed in battle gear, her body moving with quiet confidence. "It's time," she said. Her voice held no fear, only determination. Name nodded, trying to steady his breath. "What do we do now?" Lyra led him toward the edge of the village, where a small group of Fig, with a nod, Lyra turned to the warriors and issued orders. The village square quickly transformed into a battleground. The aliens positioned themselves strategically, each one in their place, ready to defend what they loved. The silence that hung in the air was heavy, but there was an undercurrent of hope. They believed in each other. They believed in the cause, and they believed in Name. As the first signs of the enemy appeared, dark, ominous shapes moving in the distance, the village seemed to hold its breath. The air grew thick with anticipation. Name could feel his heart racing, the weight of the blade in his hand suddenly heavier than it had ever been. But he didn't back away. He couldn't. Not now. "Get ready," Lyra called to the group. "They will not wait. Stand firm." Or the lives of those who believed in him. Lyra stood at the edge of the village, watching with wide eyes. Name caught a glimpse of her, her face full of fear and hope. It was then that he realized the battle was not just for him. It was for everyone who stood beside him. It was for the future they all shared. With renewed strength, Name charged into the fray, his blade cutting through the air. He fought with everything he had, fighting for the ones he loved, fighting for the people who had placed their trust in him. The darkness may have come, but they were not going down without a fight. The battle raged on, the air thick with smoke and the clash of weapons. Name's heart pounded in his chest as he fought alongside the alien warriors, each strike of his blade cutting through the thick tension that filled the air. The enemy, a dark and terrifying force, pressed forward relentlessly. Their numbers seemed endless, but the determination of Name and the alien fighters was even stronger. Lyra fought beside him, her movements fluid and precise as she took down enemy after enemy. She was a fierce warrior, but it was her leadership, her calm resolve in the face of danger that made her stand out. She inspired those around her, and Name could feel that energy pulsing through the group. Despite the chaos, he found a strange sense of calm. His body moved almost on its own, reacting to each attack with instinct rather than thought. His blade had become an extension of himself, and with each enemy he struck down, he could feel the weight of his responsibility growing. He was no longer just a diplomat. He was a protector, a leader, and he would not fail these people. The enemy was formidable, but they were not invincible. The warriors around him fought with everything they had, but the tide of the battle seemed to shift. Slowly, they began to push the invaders back. The darkness that had once felt overwhelming was now being met with the light of hope. Hope that burned brighter with every step they took toward victory. Lyra was still watching from the edge of the battle, her small face full of concern. But there was something else in her eyes now. Pride. She had seen him fight, seen him lead, and she believed in him more than ever. Name couldn't help but glance over at her as he fought. He saw the little girl standing firm, despite the fear that was so evident in her expression. She was waiting for him, just as she had believed in him from the beginning, and now he couldn't afford to let her down. Not now. The fight continued, but there was a noticeable shift. The enemy forces, once unrelenting, began to falter. Their movements grew sluggish, their attacks less organized. The warriors took advantage of this, pushing forward with renewed energy. Lyra, noticing the change, shouted over the noise of the battle, "Now! Push forward! We have them on the run!" The warriors surged forward, their battle cries echoing through the air as they advanced on the remaining enemies. Name followed them, his heart full of determination. They were almost there. The enemy was retreating, and the victory they had fought so hard for was within their reach. But as they pushed forward, something unexpected happened. From the shadows, a new enemy appeared, a massive, armored figure towering over the others. It was unlike anything Name had seen before. Its eyes glowed with an intense red light, and its armor seemed impenetrable. The warrior stepped forward, moving with a terrifying confidence. For a moment, Name hesitated. This was unlike anything he had faced before. He had fought valiantly up until this point, but this was different. This was no ordinary soldier. But Lyra's voice broke through his thoughts, sharp and commanding. "Stay focused. This is our final challenge. We must defeat this one, or all our progress will be for nothing." Name nodded, his grip tightening on his blade. He couldn't let fear control him now. He had come too far. He had promised to protect these people, and he would keep that promise, no matter the cost. The massive enemy swung its weapon toward him, and Name barely managed to block the strike. The force of the blow sent him stumbling back, but he regained his footing quickly. He had to think, had to find a way to defeat this monster. The enemy moved in again, its movements slower than before. Name's eyes locked on its armor, searching for any weakness. He had learned enough about the aliens' technology to know that even the strongest armor had its vulnerabilities. And he had one advantage. He was human. He thought differently. He could see things in a way the aliens couldn't. As the enemy raised its weapon for another strike, Name saw his opening. He dove to the side, avoiding the blow and rolling toward the creature's unprotected side. With all his strength, he plunged his blade into the gap between its armor plates. The creature let out a deafening roar, stumbling back. It tried to raise its weapon, but its movements were sluggish now, weakened by the strike. Name didn't hesitate. He pushed forward, twisting the blade and striking again, this time with more force. The enemy crumpled to the ground, its glowing eyes flickering as it fell. For a moment there was silence. Then, the warriors erupted in cheers, their voices filled with relief and triumph. The battle was won. The darkness had been pushed back, and their world was safe. For now. Lyra approached Name, her expression one of admiration. "You did it. You led us to victory." Name felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him, but it was mixed with a sense of pride. He had done it. He had helped save this world. But more than that, he had found something in himself, something he never knew he had. He looked over at Lyra, who was now running toward him with a wide smile on her face. She threw her arms around him, her small body full of excitement and joy. "You did it, Dad," she exclaimed, her voice filled with awe. "I knew you could." Name smiled down at her, his heart full. "We did it together," he said softly, looking over at Lyra and the other warriors. They had all fought for this moment. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the battlefield, Name realized something. This world, these people, they had become his family, and he had found a place where he truly belonged. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Together, they would face whatever challenges came next. And no matter what, Name knew he would fight for them, just as they had fought for him. This was just the beginning.